I'm very excited to unbox a new pair of shoes from Bespoke Shoemaker Dominic Casey. This is the first casual that Dominic has made for me, and so what I have right here is that first step in the process, which is a trial fitting shoe. Now I'm very excited also to welcome Dominic into this video. We're kind of doing this live, so Dominic is joining us from his workshop.
Yeah, this is, well, welcome to Mission Control, Kirby. This is where it all goes on, literally. You know, I'd like to say that it's more fancy than this, but this is just, this is a shoemaking bench where the shoes get made. And then there's just a few other benches around here. The last making station is just down there. The sewing machine is here. And that's about it, really. Last making, sewing, there's some leathers up on the walls here. And the various hand tools that are used are just hanging on the doors of the cupboards here. So, yeah, this is it. This is me. This is shoemaking.
It's a beautiful workshop. How long have you been there? Because I know that, you know, shoemakers, I mean, the tools are kind of passed down from generation to generation. And kind of once you settle in your workbench, I mean, you know, I think one of the things that I love about a bespoke pair of shoes is it's really done today the same way it was done 100 years ago. So, I mean, how long have you been in this workshop? And, you know, it's...
Well, this workshop was specially designed and made for me about 12 years ago. So all of the windows, it's made out of reclaimed wood. So all of the windows were made from pub doors when they closed a pub down. So there's got big windows everywhere. All of the benches were specifically made at a certain height for me to stand at. So I had the whole of the workshop built specifically for being in here, really. And this, you know, my shoemaking bench is actually underneath the bench. So these doors close away. So when I'm standing and working at the tables, you can't see the shoemaking. So when I do the shoemaking, we open the doors up. It's lit underneath, and all of the tools, as you were talking about, are just hanging on the doors here, really. So, I mean, most of these awls and the lasting pincers and the various crab clips and the Manchester clippers, you know, they're hundreds of years old. You know, well, they're 100 years old, and these have been owned by many shoemakers before me. And, you know, when I go, they'll be passed on to other shoemakers as well, you know. So, you know, I'll leave all of this to some other shoemakers, some young shoemakers, when they take over.
It you know, pass the baton on to the next generation. I mean, it's one of the things I really love about shoemaking is it's so much of an oral tradition, you know, passed on from senior shoemaker to junior shoemaker. And even, as you said, the tools that one is using, you know, in many ways are inherited. Yeah,
exactly. Whenever young shoemakers come here, they always... keep their eye on a few tools and say, right, I'll have that one when you're gone. Yeah, put a ticket, put my name on that one.
You know, that's right.
Most of them are probably gone already.
Well, I've got a very exciting, a new pair of shoes. So this is actually the fourth pair, I believe, you've done. You've got a black cap toe pair of Oxfords, which are beautiful. They're at home. I'm wearing my dark brown suede shoes that you did. These are, again, a pair of cap toes. And then I've got the dark brown pigskin cap toe Oxford that you made, beautiful, just sitting right outside. We just filmed the unboxing and first shining video of those, but I haven't yet worn them, so that's next. And then right here, we've got kind of the next evolution of that project, which is developing a casual last. And so let me open this up. This is a trial shoe that you put together for me, and it's actually very, very beautifully wrapped.
Yeah. So unlike most fitting shoes, Kirby, this one has actually got a sole and heel built on the bottom as well. So it's ready for you to actually put on and wear, really. In many ways, that as a fitting shoe, it makes it more usable for a client because you can actually genuinely walk around in it. And I think that really helps the whole fitting process. Because obviously, for these kind of casual loafer shoes, we've had to change the last. So it's a different fitting shape from the shape that you have with your lace-up shoes.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolutely beautiful shoe. Look at this. This is in a kind of a light brown pebble grain. And this is a beautiful casual. Now, you sent me photographs of these as you were making them. And I have to say, this is actually quite different than most shoemakers' fitting shoes, which are made out of scrap leather, meant to be cut up and thrown away. I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, a totally handmade, bespoke pair of shoes just instead of a leather outsole, it's got a rubber outsole on it.
Yeah. And what that means with the rubber outsole, it means you can actually wear it as a proper shoe. So you can wear it around the house, you can actually go out and walk in it. And then it's possible to take the rubber off and stitch and build on the leather soles and heels afterwards, once we know that the fit is good, because we're still just testing the fit for a casual last here, really.
Yeah.
So we've got to really check. And the only way you can really check, I mean, many people do the fitting shoes or the fittings with just the welt stitched in. So you don't actually have any sole or any heel. So you're not really feeling the proper angle and the proper balance of the shoe, really. So I just think this way helps in ensuring that we get the fit right for the casual shoes.
Yeah. You know, the fitting shoe with just the welts stitched in and no outsole, again, isn't a, you know, it's not a true example of a finished shoe, so it's not going to fit properly, because once you add the rest of that work, the shape of the shoe changes. And then these kind of really quick thrown together fitting shoes, again, in some ways really don't perfectly represent what a final shoe would be like. So even then you can get an idea of fit, but the finished actual shoe is always going to differ a little bit from that fitting shoe.
Exactly. So the thing about this is you can actually wear it. So you can wear it for a week. You can wear it for 2 weeks. You know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as soon as the soles and heels come off, it can be rebuilt, really. So that's got a seamless back on it, Kirby, just like you like. So there's no back seam running down the back there.
Beautiful.
And we can go into a few other details later, but you know, the pattern is cut asymmetrically rather than symmetrically, which is something, again, which is quite different from a lot of casual shoes. It's a bit of a technical detail, but it means that your inside quarter of that shoe is higher than the outside, which is the same on a lace-up shoe. It doesn't always happen on casual shoes, but it helps the fitting a lot better if the pattern is cut asymmetrically.
I mean, it's almost almost a hole cut. I mean, beautiful round toe, seamless back, which you never see, very rarely at least, on a pair of casuals. And again, the only seam is kind of discreetly hidden, you know, kind of right here on that inside, you know, corner, kind of right at the arch.
It's underneath the bar. I placed it there underneath the bar. So actually, when you're looking down on it, you can't really see that seam at all. You know, that's to all intents and purposes invisible, really.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the differences between a casual last and a formal last, like a lace-up or Oxford, because I know, you know, most shoemakers, you know, say that, look, we need to kind of start with your lace-up last first and get that right before we move into a casual, just because, you know, there's so much less shoe and kind of holding it onto the foot that it has to be, you know, really totally precise, and you've got to start from as good of a position as possible. And then ultimately, you know, this casual last is a modification of the lace-up last. So will you talk a little bit about that, just from a shoemaker's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, what we did was, I mean, to start off with, I took your lace-up last that we'd already got and we'd already made for you, and I made a few sort of adjustments to it. And this is a model. I made another model of your lace-up last. I wanted to add some material across the front here, but mainly what I wanted to do was I changed the toe spring at the front and I dropped the heel down at the back. Mainly because on a casual shoe, if you're going to wear them with shorts and with socks, you don't want such a pronounced bespoke high-heeled shoe. If you look at the fitting shoes, they've still got the beveled heels to them, so they've still got a really nice shape at the back. But I've actually dropped it down lower than your lace-up shoes.
For sure.
So it's changed. What that does is it changes the angle of the back curve here, and it changes, more importantly, the toe spring at the front. So you have to, if you adjust one thing on the last, you have to adjust the whole things. And then so once I made the model, I then took it off to the turners and got them to turn you another last from the model. This is specifically for casual. Lower heel, lower toe spring, and then I've really clipped it through the back and through the sides here. So there's very tight lines running through the sides here, which this is the bit that's actually going to hold the shoe on your foot. And what we really need to do is to check this instep point where the bar is, these are the 2 points that are actually going to be holding you in the shoe, as well as the clip through the top here. So these are the things that we need to check. So this is quite different from your lace-up last. And the truth is, you can just, if a client just wants a casual shoe, you can just make a casual shoe for them straight off, but it's just a different fitting. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to wear a lace-up shoe on this last. So mind you, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, so they say. So in English,
while I put these on, I mean, will you talk a little bit about, you know, kind of that journey again of a bespoke customer? You know, how many lasts could a customer have, you know, with a shoemaker like you?
Yeah, well, probably they're going to, you know, you're certainly going to have a lace-up last. You'll probably then have a casual last. And then depending on what kind of boots, or if you want to have boots made for you, you may end up having a boot last as well. I've just, out of interest, so this is a boot last. This is a last made for a riding boot. And again, I mean, if we look at Kirby's casual last, I mean, you can see the back curves are very different. The whole of the last for a boot is going to be higher. This instep point here is going to be much more different because you're actually going to be having a leg up here. So this is a boot last. So potentially you could probably end up with having maybe 3 lasts made for you. Boots, lace-ups and casuals, you know, just depending on, you know, what type of thing that you're going to be wearing really, and how, you know, there's some boots that you can make on lace-up lasts. You can't really make boots on casual lasts, and you can't really make shoes on boot lasts. So, you know, a shoemaker has really to be quite well versed in terms of making lasts and what customers want. So there's all kinds of different lasts and fittings and stuff.
Well,
how do they feel, Kirby?
Yeah, they look beautiful, and you know, they're definitely comfortable. I might have to walk around in them a little bit, but I specifically wore these brown linen trousers and these kind of light green socks, anticipating that I would put these on. And it's a beautiful toe shape. I mean, again, the toe shape is the same as my other bespoke shoes that you developed. You know, the kind of Kirby, Negroni, Clubland, you know, really kind of classic round toe shape, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's slightly fuller than your lace-up last. Again, because your lace-up last, because you may want to wear these shoes quite casually, and you might want to wear them with shorts and without any socks in them. Yeah. You know, if the last is slightly too pointed or too directional, you know, it doesn't really give it a casual look. So the way that I've broadened the toe here is to allow you to wear the shoe slightly more casually. That's why the leather, I just haven't polished this leather, just you know, because, you know, you might be out in the evening in shorts and stuff, and you don't really necessarily want a high shine on it. How's the clip at the back, Kirby? How does they feel at the back?
Well, they feel like they're nicely? Really, you know, I mean, they're certainly gripping, and it feels beautiful kind of right there in the heel. And again, it's kind of one of those things where you have to, you know, I'll have to wear these out and kind of walk in them today and kind of put some miles on them. Yeah. But it's a beautiful toe shape. And again, hand-sewn vamp. I mean, what are some of the other details that you like to work into your casuals?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing you probably can't really notice about a casual, but it's, as I said to you before a minute ago, it's all cut asymmetrically. If you think about your casual last, it's not the last is not the same on the outside shape. It's very different from the inside shape. You know, if you draw a line down the center, you've got 2 really different sizes here. So it's really important that when you actually cut the, I just happen to have one here, this is a loafer pattern here. It's very important that you actually, if you actually really look at the tab quite close up there, it's not symmetrical. The inside shape is very different from the outside shape, and it's much smaller. But when you actually put it on your last, and if this was to sit on your last, you can see, and the way from your shoes look as well, because they're cut asymmetrically, that when it actually goes on the last, it's designed to look symmetrical. So it's cut asymmetrically, but it looks as if it balances. And this is the real art in making these casuals, because again, this apron is smaller coming up here than it is there. So you just really have to understand quite closely how to cut the patterns because they're just different on the inside and the outside. And sometimes when you see casual makers and they make the pattern symmetrically, you can begin to see the apron falling off towards the inside because it's made on the same size as the outside. So there's just no real balance there. Yeah. But the other thing, what that helps with doing is keeping and cutting your inside quarter line higher than the outside. So the outside quarter line has got a very smooth curve on it, which means that it cuts underneath your ankle bone. Yeah. But the inside line is straighter and higher because that's got to conceal your arch and help hold the inside of your foot, really. Yeah. So the whole thing has got a very different balance to it. You know, there's a lot of sort of technical cutting before we get involved in seamless back and hiding the seams and all the rest. There's a fair bit of just sheer technical pattern work in there to actually get the whole thing to work properly. Yeah. And if those things don't work properly, they never really work as casual shoes. You see a lot of their bowing on the inside and the outside balance is not right on the aprons. So, you know, the aprons are moving about and not sitting straight on. So the other thing that we need to check with those, Kirby, is that the bar is actually holding you. So I made some adjustment from your last where the actual bar position is, and that's part that's actually got to hold you in. So once you, the thing is with these, as we know from shoes, if you just put them on in the shop, you can turn around and say they feel fine or they don't hurt you anywhere. But it's only when you've walked in the pair of shoes and actually worn them for 5 hours or 8 hours, you know, for a whole day, that you can think, actually, that's just a bit too tight for me. So the reason I do those fitting shoes like that is it gives a client a chance to just wear the shoe to find out actually what's it feel like at the end of the day, really.
I mean, you're really going the extra mile here because, I mean, as I was saying, I mean, this is, you know, almost a totally bespoke pair of shoes. I mean, this was hand lasted, hand welted, and hand sewn, you know, the same way a full bespoke shoe would be. I mean, these aren't simply just throwaway trial shoes, you know, that, you know, once you try them, you chuck them into the rubbish bin or they're cut up and kind of dissected. I mean, these are a really kind of beautiful pair of shoes that could, as you said, if they fit well and don't need too much adjustment, could be redone with a leather outsole and turned into, you know, their own pair of bespoke shoes.
Exactly, they're good to go, really. They're good to go. And I mean, some clients actually do choose to have those micro soles and heels put on their shoes, you know. Feel the weight of that, Kirby. That shoe weighs virtually nothing, does it, compared to a leather shoe? You know, it's just completely weightless. So, you know, some people just actually do prefer to have soles and heels like that, you know.
Now, do you make your casuals, again, if they're possibly going to be worn without socks, like with a pair of shorts, to fit not as close as a pair of Oxfords? Because, again, a really, you know, well-fitting pair of bespoke shoes, lace-ups at least, are very close fitting.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about casual shoes is it's best to always have them close fitting to start off with. So because we know that the leather ultimately will stretch and will give. So the point is, especially on a casual shoe where you've got no means of adjustment, there's no buckles, there's no elastics, there's no straps or whatever, you've got to almost wear them slightly snugger to start off with, you know, and then in sort of a month's time when they've stretched and eased a bit with walking and wear, at least they're not falling off you, really. So it's probably best to start off with them a bit snugger. So, you know, I would always say that the good thing to do is to just wear them around the house as house shoes in the evening. And just get used to them there, and then before you head out without any socks on, because again, wearing them with shorts and no socks is a different feeling from wearing them, you know, if you've got linen trousers on and a pair of light socks on.
Well, brilliant. Well, let me put these to
Better go
the
wear
test.
them.
You know, wear these beautiful shoes out, and we'll check back in about, you know, how they're kind of breaking in. One other detail I just want to point out while I have you is, you know, the inside of the tongue is kind of cut with an interesting V. Again, I've never seen this before. I mean, it almost looks like, you know, the pleat or something you'd see in the canvas of a suit jacket.
Yeah. Well, again, that's you know, that's a real pattern cutting shoemaking trick. You don't usually see that, Kirby, but what that allows me to do is to cut all of the lining more or less in one piece. So it's a one-piece lining, which what that allows, it means that you have no seams running anywhere over your toes or they're over the front of your foot. It's just a pattern making trick really, which means that the lining inside can be seamless. So there's going to be no issues with seams catching your toes, or if you're not wearing any socks, you know, there's nothing to rub on the inside of the shoe by doing it like that.
Well, a master shoemaker, Dominic. So I couldn't be
that's,
kind of more thrilled.
You're learning all the tricks of the trade, Kirby.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these are the small little tricks that are picked up over a lifetime of shoemaking.
Exactly, yeah. I pinched that idea from a very good shoemaker many years ago and been using it a lot in casual shoes and stuff like that. But you can also use it in Oxfords. You know, if people have got really sensitive feet and you want to cut a lining which has got no seams across the front of it, that's the kind of technique that you can use, because those little V-shaped seams there are then hidden underneath the tongue. So you don't actually see them because they're under the tongue. So it means that the front is completely seamless.
Well, there we go. I mean, it's, you know, the more we do this, the more kind of small details I'm pulling out of you that only have me appreciate the craft and the shoes even more.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you just got to go and wear them now, Kirby, and see what they feel like at the end of the week. That's the thing.
Well, brilliant. So, Dominic, I'll see you in London in July, but you know, you'll be traveling to the United States here soon too, won't you? In August or September?
September, yes. So I'm planning to do a trunk show in New York in September. I think the 9th to the 12th I'm in New York, and then I'm going to come down to Dallas and do a trunk show down in Dallas. And then hopefully I'm going to head over to San Antonio. There's a few clients that have been in touch with me, so I'm going to head off to San Antonio. So a bit of a Texas road trip, I think, is involved.
Yeah, well, that'll be very exciting. And I think we've got some plans to also drive through Austin and visit Lee Miller. We'll have a little bit of a bespoke boot-making symposium with Lee, which should be quite interesting because, I mean, you are to English riding boots what Lee Miller is to country western boots.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think I'll bring over some riding boots that we can talk about and look at the differences between the two, which would be nice.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, of course, if someone is interested in learning more about Dominic Casey, the best way to get in touch with Dominic is really through Instagram, or you do have a new website, isn't that correct?
DominicCasey.com.
DominicCasey.com.
Yeah.
Hard to get that wrong. So Dominic Casey, of course, certainly honored to call a friend and a shoemaker, probably one of my primary shoemakers right now, doing some absolutely exceptional work. And I couldn't be any more excited to put these on and wear them out. And so without further ado, I think that's what we are going to do today. I dressed for the occasion today, Dominic.
Great.
So there we go. Well, Dominic, you know, stay in good form. And anyway, great seeing you.
Nice to see you, Kirby.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic.
Take care.
And again, I couldn't be any more excited to finally begin working on my Bespoke Casual Last with Dominic Casey. And so I can't wait to get out and wear these things around town and really see how they're breaking in. If you haven't seen our other videos with Dominic Casey, make sure you check the description of this video. One of my favorites is where we meet with Dominic and he begins carving by hand my first Bespoke Last. If you haven't seen that video, it's certainly one to check out. Of course, I'm Kirby Allison, and I love to help the well-dressed acquire and care for their wardrobes while discovering the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Thank you for watching.